I'm Janet with McLean and Company, and I'm here with Matthew Daniel, principal at Guild Education. Matthew, so excited always to talk to you, and thanks for being here and joining us and for contributing to McLean's research on internal talent marketplace, which is the topic of today's call. So before I dive in, I just want to provide our audience here with our definition of an internal talent marketplace so they'll know what the heck we're talking about. At McLean, we define an internal talent marketplace as a tech-enabled platform that uses artificial intelligence to match people to opportunities based on their skills, their interests, and their aspirations. And then by opportunities, we mean things like internal gigs and temporary projects and full-time roles, mentorships, learning experiences, all sorts of things. So that's what we're talking about today. So let's dive in and let you talk. You were so helpful in our research and giving us some perspective really on some of the risks and equity concerns of an internal talent marketplace. And I just would love your insights on, what are some of the equity concerns of a talent marketplace, particularly pertaining to, manual and frontline workers, and how can organizations be more inclusive in rolling one out so that it benefits all employees?
Yeah, I'll give you three things that I think about just right off the top of my head as critical pieces to the infrastructure about how you think of deploying a system like this. The first is, I can't imagine that there are any employers out there who haven't seen a common trend, which is that the majority of your underrepresented populations, whether by socioeconomic background, by ability, by race, and even by gender, are sitting in the front lines of your workforce, often in a population that is has a lack of access to opportunities, a lack of access to platforms, a lack of access to even a computer to sit down at to log into a platform like this. So I think when you have the opportunity to build from the ground up with equity in mind, I think I would take three things into account. Number one is literally access to the system. If the way that you're deploying your talent marketplace depends on being able to sit at a computer and not access it via phone, I think I just saw some research this week that talked about how frontline employees in particular in the recruiting space are more interested in a mobile-ready interface that they can get access to. Far more of a concern than folks who might be in an exempt role or a white-collar role. And so I would literally just start at the beginning with, can I get to the platform? Can I get to it? Do I have an experience that allows me to sit down? Do I have time? If I can get to it, but it's when I am at a computer in the workplace, then I have limited amounts of time that I can access that. And I think as we frame up the way that people get to new jobs, we imagine a lot of times that it's that search for a job, search for a gig, search for a learning opportunity. But there's a stage far beyond that where an employee is in an exploration mode. They're trying to figure out, where should I go? What are the options that are available to me? What do I want? That requires time. That requires effort. And so, number one, if I don't have a platform I can go to that's accessible, then guess what's not going to happen? Mobility for me in any form or fashion, because I can't get to the platform. Number two, while that first one seemed more obvious, number two is for a frontline workforce, there's less ability or what we might call less occupational identity. The whole idea about mobility is that you're imagining there's a new place for you to go, a new opportunity, a new role that you will pursue. You and I have occupational identities. We go to dinner parties and we talk about who we are, our work as a part of who we are. And for a population that's on the front line, they have occupational identities too. It's in the work that they're doing right now. But what they don't have is an occupational identity for where they want to go. Who am I becoming? What is that new job? What is that next job? And so when we want to create opportunity where people are literally moving from a non-exempt job to an exempt job, when they're moving from a blue collar to a white collar job, when they're moving, frankly, from a retail location, from a distributed workforce into a home office, when they're exploring new opportunities that may take them to working from a call center at home, they're literally reforming their occupational identity. And so if you don't have the assets, process, tool, cultures wrapped around that talent marketplace in order to help people reform their identity and see themselves in a new place, ultimately they're not going to be a part of this eligible workforce that you're going to have moving. And frankly, your frontline workforce probably constitutes a large portion of the places from which you want to pull talent in from. It's the place where you have a higher supply and you're trying to get them to higher demand. If you don't take into account that change that happens, we think of it, the organization I work with, we think of it often through coaching, access to people who help you reform identity. It's not even coaches sometimes, it's community, it's peers, it's social groups who help you build the new social capital needed for the next role, build the new occupational identity needed for the next role, and find your way into that. The third item when I think about equity that's really critical is that frontline employees don't articulate skills in the same way that an office worker would. In fact, they have many skills that they may tap into. I'm the oldest of 4 children. I'm the only one who's graduated with my bachelor's degree. A number have tried school at different points in time. Now, it's really important to note that just because I have a brother who's a plumber doesn't mean that he doesn't code, because he does. He writes games on his phone. I have another brother who does technology repair. He was in the Coast Guard as a technologist. What he can sit down and do at a piece of healthcare equipment is fundamentally different than what he was doing before when he was in a paper mill. My sister, who is a hairstylist, again, a frontline job, also runs the PTA. She is balancing the books, not just as somebody who is cutting hair, but she is somebody who owns her own business and understands the finances that goes with that and builds social around her. If you imagine looking at somebody who's sitting on your front line and you don't take into account the fact that they are playing Roblox with a niece or a nephew, that they are exploring lots of other things that are available to them in the workforce and in the community that they serve in, that they're volunteering and putting together marketing materials for other people to join, they miss the articulation of skills that would be fundamental to helping those folks find opportunity in your organization outside of the way that you might think of a frontline employee who has a very fixed job description and executes on the same thing over and over. I'll say this is kind of the plea from me down, is that when we look at our frontline workforce and what they've endured over the past 2.5 years, and frankly, a frontline workforce that is overwhelmingly made up of underrepresented populations, if we don't see the fact that people got up every day, got out of their house, risked, went out into the community to serve, managed to have a positive atmosphere and create a good experience for others, then we're missing some of the most critical skills around resilience, communication, relationship building that are necessary for us to build our business and create mobility overall in our organizations through a platform like a talent marketplace.
Thanks for the great insights. I think those are all so important, and you are going to definitely change minds and have people thinking differently about internal talent marketplaces. I don't think that's something that comes up a lot, and it's so important. Love what you said about, resilience and things like that, and some of those skills, I guess, that we're missing. So thank you. Just one more quick question, and that is, what would you say to organizations just getting started?
Yeah, you're going to notice there's a trend line through what I'm going to talk about, which is this: equity. I think it's really easy when one is deploying a system like this, a platform like a talent marketplace, to think, I'll get to the population later. I'll get to frontline employees later. I'll get to underrepresented populations in my workforce later. And I think my most compelling message when I talk to HR professionals day in and day out is this: none of us got into this field because what we imagined is, I love to implement systems, like writing job descriptions and managing escalations whenever people don't like a policy. I love a learning management system, an applicant tracking system that makes my day. Nobody thought that. What they thought is, I want to make change. I've had better and worse experiences, and I want to create better experiences for other people. And the HR function, the people function, gave them the opportunity to do that. As you walk into an opportunity like deploying a platform like a talent marketplace in your organization, do it right. Create the change that you want in your organization. Do the thing that you imagine to yourself you would do in HR, and don't go the easy route. Don't just deploy it to the white collar workers. Don't just deploy it to the people at home office. Don't just deploy it to the places where it's easy because technology is already there in the forms of computers and laptops. Make the decision that what you want to do is be an agent of equity in the way that you deploy this platform. Come at it with some realistic expectations about what you can get done, make some progress, get it out the door. Just one last piece of advice, and that is you're never going to map every skill. Skills taxonomies are nightmares. They take years to figure out, and by the time you do, it's long changed. Deploy it early, focus on the things where you get the most lift, focus on the things where everyone has access and equity, and go make the change in the world that you need to when you signed up for this job.
Great advice. As always, I could talk to you all day. Thank you for sharing and for contributing to this research.
Thank you.